Hello, and welcome to the show, everybody. This is another edition of College Football Showdown. Heading into Week 12, presented by Prime Sports World. Going live 7 days a week, 24/7, bringing the heat, baby. And I got my main man, Christian Simpson, here from the Daily Blitz blog and Monday Evening Quarterback. What's going on, my boy?
Oh man, it's just another Friday. I'm ready to break down the action with you. And one of these Fridays, Izzy, I'm just gonna put a suit on to match your fresh. You know what I'm saying?
You know I gotta put the blazer on. It's been a staple this year.
Look, you're clean.
It's been a staple this year, ladies and gentlemen. I think I'm just gonna ride with it to the rest of the time for the have a blazer on. You know what I mean? Yeah. I much appreciate it, my boy. But yeah, we got a lot to untackle. Not really an eventful college football weekend. Not too many big games. We got a couple big games on the West Coast. We got UCLA, USC, we got Oregon and Utah.
Yep.
And that USC UCLA game has some implications for USC for that matter, because USC, still has a shot as a one-loss team to make the college football playoff. And then when I look at Oregon and Utah, those two are just playing for, to get into the Pac-12 championship.
They are
pretty much.
They are. But before we even get into anything football related, man, it's such a blessing to come on and talk football with you. But I would be absolutely crazy if I didn't take this time to offer my prayers, my thoughts, and what happened at Virginia. I'm absolutely heartbroken for Tony Elliott and this program. Like I don't even know how they could even go on and play after something like this. And look, I know you're a parent, and you can probably echo my sentiments when I say this, but no parent should ever have to bury a child, no matter how old they are.
Yeah, no, and I'm glad you brought that up, Christian. I was gonna go that route. I had to get everything kind of out the way. But I'm glad you brought it up, and I mentioned it at the end of our show on Monday when when it happened. Because it happened late Sunday night, and we got the news. Everybody got the news Monday morning. Just an unfortunate situation. Where three lives was tragically lost that were on the UVA football team, lost by a former football player, and then two other students were shot coming from a field trip from Washington D.C. And actually, a couple of players that were tragically lost, were playing. They did play last week. Played last week, and I just honestly to be here right now saying that we got to bury that three young men lives were lost. Those were three young guys that aren't going to be able to really they didn't get a chance.
Yeah, I mean, look,
they didn't get a chance.
Their life was just getting started, and I'm absolutely heartbroken, and I'm absolutely devastated. Not just for the football program and the guys that played for them, but their families, especially around this time of the year. And Thanksgiving is next week, and then right after that leads into Christmas and the holiday season. Nothing's ever going to be the same for them anymore,
or the families. And really, you got to say that 4 lives are lost because the gunman's young 22-year-old, his 22 or 23-year-old, his life is done for now too. I mean, he gonna be in prison for the rest of his life. And I hate to start off the show. Well, we hate to start off the show on such a somber moment, but yeah, our hearts and prayers go out to those families. For Prime Sports World, for me, Christian, definitely to the Virginia Cavaliers, for those families that lives were lost, and the whole Virginia Cavalier University as a whole, because this is the second mass shooting in I don't know how many years, Christian.
Yeah,
because they
yeah.
had one in
Hmm.
not so recently ago,
They did.
and the Virginia football athletic program and the Virginia football program as well. You like I said, man, and you hit the nail on the head, man. I got a kid, and I couldn't imagine getting that call in the middle of the night, saying that my child was lost to due to gunfire, and it's one of those things that as a nation we've been trying to fix, but we just can't put our finger on it to fix it. So gun violence has been a issue, a point in this nation, and something got to be changed, down the
Yeah,
line.
yeah, yeah. It definitely does. But
So.
yeah. I don't like starting the shows off on somber notes either. But this was something
Hmm.
we both just really needed to discuss because this is bigger than football at this point. These are lives of young men who were taken
Hmm.
way too soon, not being able to experience life because it was senselessly taken by somebody
Yeah.
who had, I don't know what demons he had in his closet, but look, don't harm him. Don't do that. Look at all the trauma you've put other families through.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the players that Deshaun Perry, one of the players that's lives was lost out of Miami, Florida. He actually had two tackles in the game last week against Pittsburgh. So, and I don't think they'll be playing football the rest of the season either, Christian. They canceled Coastal Carolina. I think they're going to cancel the last two games, and rightfully so.
And rightfully
Rightfully
so.
so.
Rightfully so, because I'm sure these players are also very traumatized. Izzy, look, you play football, I play football, and the one common denominator that I think we can both agree on is when you're in the locker room with those guys, they almost become members of your family as well. So
Hmm.
I just look at a team that lost three family members, unfortunately, to senseless
Yeah.
gunfire.
Yeah, to senseless gun violence. Now, I will say this: I can't speak for the last. I know this game against Coastal Carolina was canceled. You got that game in Plattsburgh at the end of the year in Virginia Tech. I wonder. I don't think we've gotten word that they'll cancel that game, but it looks like it may be canceled. But we'll get word on that. But if they were to play, they'll be playing with heavy hearts. But to play against Virginia Tech, your rival, in-state rival, it would be amazing to see that solidarity
Yeah, yeah,
between both
because
programs to
yeah,
represent those three young men.
I agree because you look at what the final week of college football is. That's rivalry week, and I honestly think that rivalry will be put to the side for bigger reasons and better reasons. And they're gonna play for the love of the game. That would be
Hmm.
absolutely amazing. But then again, I don't blame them
Them for not playing.
if they don't play.
Yeah, no, me neither. Me neither. And like I said, man, just a tragic situation in college football. And we kind of had this almost last year with the cornerback from Utah as well. He
Aaron
was
Lowe,
lost.
Aaron
Aaron
Lowe.
Lowe was lost to gun violence as well at a off-campus party in Salt Lake City. And yeah, it's hard. It's a tough pill to swallow, ladies and gentlemen.
It really
Um,
is. It
just
really
saying.
is. And I also just wanna say, look, if you have a grudge with somebody or you're beefing with somebody, let that go. Apologize and give people their flowers now while you can still smell it. So Izzy, man, I wouldn't be here without you. Me and you have been cool for a couple years, man. I don't even think it's a friendship with us at this point. I think it's a
It's
brotherhood.
brotherhood. Yes,
And
sir.
man, I couldn't be more grateful for my brother, man. I really appreciate you, man.
Much love to you too, and much love to David, and TJ, and Matt
Yup,
James, who
yup,
who who all participate on this
absolutely,
podcast. But
absolutely.
yeah, I hate to move on, ladies and gentlemen, from the somber note because I could really end the show on that note. But we do have a lot of show to cover. So looking at last week's games, what stood out to you, Christian? In terms of last week games. I picked a bunch of upset picks and I got none of them right.
Yeah, I would actually agree with you on one of those upset picks, and I didn't get it right either. But I
Mm-hmm.
honestly think the Texas Longhorns, they opened up the door and they showed you how to limit and how to slow down TCU. If you look at that game, that Texas
Mm-hmm.
defense kept them in the game. It was the offense that couldn't get out of their way, but that defense was absolutely fantastic. I just want to give them a little bit of love here, if I could. They were active up front, sometimes just getting to Max Duggan with three, keeping a spy in the middle of the field, and then dropping everybody back in coverage. And I mean, they were hitting him, they were pressuring him, they were collapsing his pocket. They made life difficult for him, and they held TCU to under 20 points. So I can't wait to see what Baylor does. Dave Aranda,
Yeah.
defensive-minded coach. So I can't wait to see what he does to get after this offense. I mean, look, Texas held a TCU offense that averages about 43 points a game to 17. Let that sink in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, you're right. And Texas is a young ball club too. Very young ball club, but their defense gets after it. Um, I would have loved to see Bajan Robinson kind of take over that game. He's got probably the most talent on both sides of the ball. Him and Xavier Worthy, but it just didn't happen for Texas. But they're going against a Baylor team, offensive team, right? They in their last four games, they're 3-1. They did lose last week, or yeah, they lost last week to K State. Was 31-3, and yeah, they got shellacked. So they're looking to come back here at home. And they were at home against K State and they got shellacked. So they're looking to come back at home and beat TCU and knock out the top four number 4 team in the nation there. Another thing that stands out to me, Oregon, right?
Right?
Oregon losing that was a hell of a game, by the way.
It
Um,
was.
Oregon and Washington. Michael Penix, he just is a big game quarterback. Honestly, I'd say this, Michael Penix Jr. this year, he might play his way into a top 3 round, like into the top 3 rounds as a quarterback, getting drafted. Some might say that here's a case of getting picked in the early second, late first,
I can see that. I can see
the way
that.
he's been playing. Yeah.
Look, but I'll say this: Oregon gift wrapped that game for Washington. Why would you go for it on 4th and 1 on your side of the football field? Number one, and then number two, Washington pretty much sniffed that play out, got in the field goal range, and kicked the field goal to win the game. I think that's the biggest mistake of Dan Lanning's rookie season as a head coach. Man, he made a rookie mistake at the worst time possible. He cost his team a potential playoff spot.
Yeah, I'm looking at that 4-for-1 play, man. I just you gotta punt it, man. I mean, you gotta punt it. Your man's he slipped. Washington set the edge. Washington was playing with house money in this game. Washington's the number 25 ranked team. They're looking for an upset. They're looking to end their season on the top note, on a big note, and they certainly did with this win in Al Zoo. So I got to give it to Washington, man. Oregon's chances are now done for in the CFP. They literally had to run the table. They had to run the table after that loss against Georgia to even be considered, and now they're done for. Another one, I like the way that Clemson bounced back against Louisville. That was big after losing to Notre Dame the way they did. I like the way, that North Carolina Wake Forest game. Ooh, that
Man,
was when we talk about offense.
look, those were fireworks in that game. But you know what else stood out to me? Harold Perkins of LSU. What a game!
Hmm.
This kid.
Oh yeah, that freshman, man.
At 4 sack. Look, it's tough to get a sack of the quarterback, and this kid, I heard, was playing with a fever or flu-like conditions, and just came out and balled out and put that defense on his back. And he's pretty much the reason why LSU in Brian Kelly's first year, they're going to the SEC championship game. They won the West.
Yeah, no, they're going to with that they clinched the ACC, the SEC, their way into the SEC championship game. So all they really got to do, if they beat Georgia, they in. You know, I was
Yeah,
saying this
pretty
last
much.
week, and this kid Harold Perkins Jr. is a true freshman. I mean, he moves side to side. I mean, we're talking about a future NFL. We're talking about a future college football, future NFL, future college football star, but a future NFL probably first rounder draft pick, maybe a potential top 10 pick
I could.
in the draft down the road, barring any injury. But I mean, this kid, he is all over the field. Yeah, LSU's defense is pretty stout. I would have liked for them to, you know, they did let Arkansas kind of sneak back in the fourth quarter, but it kind of felt like, defensively they were just dominating Arkansas pretty much, majority of the game until that last that touchdown early in the fourth quarter. After that, they just shut them down. And I kind of look at this game as like, if like KJ Jefferson is playing, maybe it's a different game. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at a play right now. I'm looking at a play right now that Harold Perkins did where he chased the quarterback down, like tackled him, got the fumble, and picked it up. Like
Yep.
That's some like Jadavion Clowney type stuff right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's against Michigan.
Yeah. But
If you guys don't remember that play,
it's a. Oh man, I remember that play like it was yesterday.
yeah, like it was
Oh,
yesterday.
hey, but I'll just say this: anytime you needed a play from that kid, he answered the call every
Mhm.
single time. Look, it was a good week to be an LSU Tiger. Harold Perkins did what he did. LSU clinches the SEC West. They're in the SEC title game against the Georgia Bulldogs, and I know you saw this, Izzy. Look at all those catches Justin Jefferson made on Sunday in Buffalo. We talked about that the other day on the Prime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. You're right. You're definitely right about that. Yeah, no. And then also, we kind of predicted that UCF Tulane game would kind of be high scoring. I thought it'd be a little bit higher scoring than what it was, but 38-31 still high scoring game, 69 points between the two. And I think you got that right. You predicted UCF to win that game.
Yeah, it was just look. I just knew UCF could consistently make those passes down the field when they had to. Tulane, they're a run first team, and the way you beat them, you sit on the line of scrimmage, you load that box, and you force them to pass it. Plain and simple, and they just couldn't answer the call.
Yeah, and then one last one. The way that Florida State is ending the season, how impressed are you?
I like it, and I think good things are coming because man, they haven't really been relevant since 2014. I know it's been some down years for them, but this was the most talented roster that Mike Norvell's had since becoming the head coach of Florida State. Add a couple more pieces. That defense improved statistically and on the field from a playing standpoint. Offensively, I think Jordan Travis, he did some good things. He just has to show that model of consistency. If he can just be that guy that can be consistent and that team can feed off of his energy and his consistency, Florida State, they're going to challenge and they're going to contend for the ACC again. Just get some of those recruits and good things are going to happen.
Yeah, Jordan Travis, a kid that, he kind of has similar numbers to Bryce Young in a way from Alabama, just not
Yeah.
getting talked about as much. Similar player in a way, 20 touchdowns, 4 interceptions on the year, over 2,400 yards. But I like the way Florida State, has responded after losing. They had a tough 3 game stretch. Everybody knows this, right? Right in the middle of the season, they start out 4-0. They even beat LSU 24-23 at home. People don't remember that. People
Yep.
got to remember that this team beat LSU, and that win against LSU looks even more impressive now that you think about it, right? Right, Christian?
It does because
Yeah,
man, that was one of the best games I saw all year. Man, it's been a great college football season, but this Florida State team, they're knocking at the door. And just get a couple
yeah, next year.
recruits. Yeah, I can't wait to see what they do. And everybody was so quick to ride Mike Norvell out of Tallahassee, but no, he's gonna do some things with this program. Continue to let him recruit and get the players that he wants.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, when they started out 4-0, they had that tough 3 game stretch against Wake Forest, NC State, Clemson, back to back to back. They all close games, and they lost except for the one against Wake Forest. But pretty much, majority, they lost to Clemson by 6, kind of some garbage time touchdowns, but or late game touchdowns. But they still were kind of in it. And then they responded with those. They could have mailed it in after that. We lost our three ranked teams, back to back to back. They responded by beating Georgia Tech 41-16. They responded by beating Miami in Miami 45-3. They went into the Carrier Dome last week and beat Syracuse, which was a ranked opponent at one point, 38-3. So I gotta give my hat off to Florida State the way they're ending the season. I'm gonna be honest. I think they're gonna end the season 9-3 this year, and they're gonna beat Louisiana, and Florida. I'm gonna call it right now
Right.
that they'll beat
Okay.
both those teams to end the season.
Yeah, and I look, they're trending in the right direction. I can't wait. They'll probably get a bowl game. I can't wait to see what they do during the off season and coming in the spring game and then getting recruits, National Signing Day. Remember, this is a team that won a national championship with Jimbo back in 2013, and that
Mm-hmm.
team was absolutely amazing that year. That team had absolutely no weaknesses. A Heisman winning quarterback in Jameis Winston had all those like Kelvin Benjamin. They were great, and man, yeah, I can't wait to see Florida State get back to it. And I think you can agree with me when I say this, that when the legendary teams in sports are good, it's better for the sport overall.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I can't close the book on week 11 without, giving a shout out to Boston College for going into NC State, hostile
Mhm.
environment, and winning that football game off a fade route with 14 seconds left in the last, 20 seconds or so of the game. Shout out to Boston College for winning that game. That's big for their program. They're 3-7. I don't know if they're going to make a bowl game this year, but that's definitely kind of ending your season on a tough game on a high note. Not ending your season, you got 2 more games left, but one of your highlights of the season could be number 16 NC State at home. So definitely got to get them a shout out there.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, definitely. This just goes to show you that anybody can be beat on any given Thursday, Saturday, Sunday night, and Monday night.
Absolutely. So moving into the college football playoffs, that closes the book on week 11. Going into week 12, we started the top 4 saying Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Michigan 3. I would say Michigan has a tough test against Illinois. I thought that game would be a game between top 10 opponents, but Illinois kind of stumbled the last couple of weeks, and so
They
they're
did.
unranked. And then number 4, TCU going into Baylor. Really, pretty much, all 4 teams pretty much have, easy games this week. Georgia has an easy game this week, in my opinion. Well, no, Georgia doesn't have an easy game. Georgia goes into Kentucky. So, yeah, now, let me take that back. Georgia doesn't have an easy game this week. I know Ohio State goes into Maryland, but that's a game that Georgia should win against Kentucky. Michigan is at home against Illinois, and then TCU is on the road against Baylor. So what do you look at the top 4? How do do you think it's ranked? Do you think TCU, LSU, like how is it still good right now in your opinion, or what?
Yeah. I knew it was gonna stay with these 4 because all 4 of them won. Georgia handled their business against Mississippi State. Ohio State. This was the best I've seen them look in quite some time. I mean, they were dominant on both sides of the ball defensively. The thing I like about Ohio State is even when they're up by big leads, they play with that intensity, like they're trying to come back into the game. That's
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I'm going to give Ryan Day, Jim Knowles, the defensive coordinator of Ohio State, and this entire Buckeyes team as a whole. And I just wonder if Jackson Smith and Jigba is going to come back ready to play because they've been without
Mm-hmm.
him the pretty much the duration of the year, but it just seems like the others have stepped up. Emeka Egbuka, he's
Egg
stepped up.
Booker, yep. Mm-hmm.
Marvin Harrison Jr., he's arguably been their best player this year, stunting like his daddy. They're running the football with Travion Henderson and Mayan Williams, but it all starts with C.J. Stroud. So them at number two, I can understand it. Michigan handled their business against Nebraska, and TCU got a test against Texas. And I think Texas, like I said at the top of the show, they unveiled the blueprint on how to neutralize and how to stop that TCU offense. Get a ton of pressure on Max Duggan, throw a lot of different looks at him. I mean, Texas was doing it with as many as just rushing three without blitzing. That's amazing to me.
Yeah, no, and someone say that Ohio State does have a tough test as well. I mean, Maryland ain't no slouch. I mean, they've lost the last two. They lost the last game. They went into Happy Valley and got smoked 30-0. They lost in Camp Randall 23-10. But what a way for Ohio State to come back. The one thing about Maryland, I think in this game they'll be running the ball with Hemby. You got Tucker Vailoa. He's no slouch. He's a dual threat quarterback, which can give Ohio State some problems. One thing I like about Ohio State, I'll tell you this right now, Christian, is that
Mm-hmm.
they came back off of that 21-7. Oh yeah, was it? Yeah, 21-7 win against
Northwest.
Northwestern, and they came out and they beat Indiana 56-14. And that's the way you want to see them respond. And I'm going to kind of go into my next team, which is like the outside looking in team, which is Tennessee, right? The number 5 team, right? What a way to respond after losing to Georgia, the biggest game of the season. Well, the second biggest game of the season, because you beat Alabama, one. Then you go against Georgia, at Georgia, in between the hedges. Lose 27-13, okay. But then you come back home and you beat Missouri like you were playing UT Martin. You beat them
Yeah.
66-24. And I think the score against UT Martin was 65-24. So you came out and you put 60 on an SEC opponent that gave Georgia problems.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I want to elaborate something on Ohio State and Michigan real quick. I think these are trap games for them this weekend
Oh
because
yeah,
Illinois is not a slouch. I know we'll talk about that in the featured game segment of college football showdown, but I just hope neither one of them overlooks who's in front of them coming into tomorrow because no matter what, Michigan and Ohio State, it's still going on next Saturday morning at the shoot in Columbus. Handle your business, take care of what's in front of you right now, then worry about that game when it gets there. TCU at 4, yeah, I knew they were going to stay, but look out for Tennessee. They're on the outside looking in. One of these 4 teams slips up, and Tennessee's in the 4, in that top 4, in that bracket.
yeah. No, honestly, like if Michigan beats Ohio State, and I think whoever wins that game is out of the top 4.
Oh,
Now,
100%.
whoever loses that game is out of the top 4, and Tennessee gets in. There's no ands, ifs, ups about it. Whoever loses that big game is out of the top 4, and then they have to, basically, yeah, no, they're out the top 4. There's no way. Like whoever wins that game, that is your Big Ten championship game. That is your
Agreed.
ticket to the CFP because even if LSU beats Georgia, Georgia's still going to be in the top 4 at the end of the season, right?
Right.
And LSU will sneak in. And definitely, if Georgia beats LSU, then the top 4 is going to be solidified. I think it does really come down to like TCU and what TCU can do. Like if TCU definitely loses this week, it's over with for them. But they still have a Big 12 championship game to play.
Yeah, I
And
play
they
again.
gotta they
Yeah,
gotta go. They gotta play Iowa State, which is no slouch either. Iowa State can very well upset them. They had a pretty good defense. They're tough minded. The only thing is that TCU got going for them is that they're playing that last game at home. So
absolutely.
um, yeah, and then round out the top 10, we got USC. They got a big game against UCLA, rivalry game this week. Alabama at number 8, number 9, Clemson, and then number 10, Utah with that big game against Oregon. That might have some bigger implications for Oregon if they did lose to Washington last week. But now it's just like, okay, this is to get us into the Pac-12 championship game, and especially if USC wins. it'll be probably USC and Oregon or whatnot. Um, but yeah, no, I when I look at the Pac-12 this year, man, it's been pretty competitive to say the least. I mean, between those four teams that I just mentioned in Washington and Oregon State, Stanford Stanford has had a down year this year, but they played tough this year in some capacity. But yeah, no, the Pac-12 has been pretty impressive. I've been pretty impressed with the 5, 6 teams that I kind of mentioned. At least the 5 teams that I mentioned. This year. So the 6 teams I mentioned, because you got Washington and Oregon State as well. And then we got North Carolina. Then we got Penn State, Oregon at 12, 13 North Carolina, who moves up a couple slots in the CFP after winning that barn burner against Wake Forest. Which, man, that was just a back and forth game. So Drake May, he's in. I think he broke Lamar Jackson's record when Lamar Jackson won the Heisman of
wow.
Quarterback with 5 touchdowns or more over 5 games. He scored 5 touchdowns or more in 6 games, which broke Lamar Jackson's record in the ACC. So, yeah, Drake May's in some elite company there. And then at number 14, Ole Miss, had a tough game against Alabama last week. Bama pulled it out against them. But there's nothing to hang their hat on. They still play competitively. Number 15, Kansas State. We talked about them. They blew out Baylor last week. Number 16, UCLA. UCLA. Tough one to lose to Arizona, right?
Yeah, it definitely was, because they did exactly what I always mention on every show I contribute for, and on Monday Evening Quarterback. They looked ahead, and they got caught. Arizona took advantage.
Yep. No, exactly. Arizona took advantage of it. And then very much like you said, trap games for Michigan, Ohio State. They can't look ahead. They got to look at the opponent right now. Once that game's over with, then you can look to Ohio State and you can look to Michigan for both respective programs. And then, right out the top 25, we got number 17, Washington. Number 18, Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Been playing pretty well, pretty good football to end the season. Good for Marcus Freeman, man. See, 7-3 team. I know they had some hiccups. They lost to Marshall. Probably should have never lost to Marshall. They played number 2 Ohio State in the horseshoe, tough all the way up into the end until they finally got their quarterback situation situated. Lose to Stanford, that's a tough one. But they responded with big wins this season, right? Beating BYU in Vegas. They beat North Carolina, which is the top 13 team so far this year, 45-32. It wasn't even close. They beat Syracuse 41-24. It wasn't even close. They beat number 4 Clemson, knocked them out the CFP. It wasn't even close. And then they, kind of had a closer one with Navy, played down to the competition. Navy's always a little tough to play. And they got one big game. And this is good. Hey, I love it because you said it. Rivalry week is the last week of the season.
Yep.
I mean, what other big rivalries out there? Notre Dame and USC,
baby. Look.
Yeah, so
2 of the more iconic programs in college football. You look at Notre Dame, just all the Hall of Fame, the Pro Football Hall of Famers that went to that school. I'm talking to Joe Montana's, Jerome Bettis, Tim Brown, guy that just went in this past year, Bryant Young. And then you just look at all the big names that have played for USC, another Pro Football Hall of Famer. Troy Polamalu, man, that's going to be a great game. 2 new young head coaches in this rivalry. But I want to tip my cap to Marcus Freeman as well, because I remember everybody was ready to ride him as a band. Like, okay, It's his first year. Let him break in. Let him break the ice. And everything's going to go smoothly. And they play so hard for him. I was so happy when they promoted him to head coach last year. Look at that reaction in that video when he came in the locker room. Look at how those players gravitated to him. Let him build that roster. Let him get his own players. And Notre Dame's going to be a team to watch.
And the thing is about Marcus Freeman, one thing about Marcus Freeman, he was the number 1. He was, other than the 3 headed monster recruiters at Texas A&M. I forget their names, but they have three like crazy recruiters that Jimbo Fisher has at Texas A&M. They're like outstanding. But Marcus Freeman was the number one, like solely was like the number one recruiter in the nation, and he got promoted to head coach. So a lot of those guys that he's gonna bring out, I just can't wait because he's gonna turn that program into a top 10 for like he's taking a mantle from Brian Kelly, and we also see like Brian Kelly winning just travels, right? He won at
Yeah, I mean, you look at
Cincinnati, he won at Notre Dame, he won at
yup,
LSU.
yup.
So and he left he
Yeah,
left Notre Dame in the good hands with Marcus Freeman. And
I agree.
what way to possibly get into to finish off the season and possibly beat USC at the end of the season, but they still got to take care of business this week. So gotta give it
Absolutely.
to Notre Dame. And then round at the top 25, we got moving forward. We got number 19 Florida State. We talked about them earlier. Number 20 UCF. Moving up in the rankings. What a hell of a job that Gus Malzahn has done. Number 21 Tulane. They dropped 4 spots. Nothing to hang their hat on. Them and UCF are probably right there, neck and neck. And then we got number 22 Oklahoma State. They weren't ranked in the college football playoff. Number 23 Oregon State jumps back in the top 25. NC State moves down dramatically, 8 slots, and then Cincinnati moves in to the top 25 again after not being ranked, going 8-2. Moving forward, we got our featured games of the week like we do every week. Christian's right. We are going to preview Illinois versus number 3 Michigan. And the only reason I'm doing this one because I think out of both games, we could actually kind of preview a little bit of Ohio State versus Maryland. And why don't we, right? Why don't we do both ahead of both big games in the last week of the season?
Why don't we?
Why don't we? Let's start with Michigan versus Illinois. How do you see this one shaking out?
Well, man, yeah, 2 of the best running backs in the country here. Chase Brown, Blake Corum. I think these are the 2 best running backs in the Big Ten. Illinois, they've stumbled, but I don't think they have much to hang their head down about because they've played a lot better than I think a lot of people have anticipated them to play. Michigan, they've been doing this all year. They've been in cruise control. Still think this entire conference goes through them, and they know what's at stake. They have to stay focused, and I'm sure that's what Jim is preaching to them. Stay laser focused. Don't focus on anything else outside of the Illinois Fighting Illini who come to the Big House tomorrow. I see this being a physical game. This is a tune-up for Michigan against Ohio State. I like Michigan. I just think they have too much. I think Blake has another big day at the office.
Yeah, I agree with you. Both of these 2 teams, man, they have, 2 of the top 3 running backs, Blake Corum and Chase Brown. Chase Brown has over 1,400 total rushing yards. He's facing, Michigan Wolverines team that's only giving up, 72.7 yards per game. And, over the last 5 games, they're only allowing, teams to score a total of 3 points in the second half. So Michigan has, and we've seen it, right? First half, they kind of stumbled. Second half, they've come out dominant. I could see that kind of again. This is a big game for both teams, right? Obviously, Michigan, Ohio State, they're playing to get into the Big Ten championship game. And then you have Purdue and Illinois kind of jockeying. They got to hope that Purdue loses one of these last 2 games. But if Illinois can, win both of these 2 games, obviously they knock out Michigan, who honestly, people at Illinois consider them a rival, and I think they are a rival some sort of way there at Illinois. And then, if they can knock out, Michigan out the top, out the CFP, and then they can win their last game, then they're actually in the Big Ten championship game, which they get a Big Ten West crown. I don't see that happening. I'm gonna go with Michigan to win this game. And I think that they'll win it convincingly too. I think they'll win, at least by 3 touchdowns or so. They're just dominant. They're a more physical team, and they'll be bringing it to Illinois in that second half definitely. And I can see Blake Corum definitely having a Heisman moment. He could punch his he could punch a ticket. I don't think he needs to, but I think he'll get invited to New York anyways. But I could see him, having a Heisman moment here if he does somehow win the award. It could be this game and the next game that can push him over the hump
Yeah, I think
in a way.
if Michigan were to beat, I think if Michigan were to beat Ohio State in Columbus, and Blake has a big game, the award is his to lose. I think he's the favorite at this point.
Yeah, if he has a big game, Hendon Hooker. I mean, I still think it's a two guy race. So we can get to that later. I think
Yep, we'll
it's a
get to
two guy
that.
race when it comes to Hendon Hooker and CJ Stroud. I think it's their awards to lose. But yeah, if CJ Stroud has a bad game in that last game, and Blake Corum has a good game, yeah, I absolutely think he jumps ahead of him. And then moving on to it wasn't on our feature game. I should have put it on there. How can I be disrespectful to Maryland? Sorry, guys. Maryland, Ohio State. How do you
Yep.
see this one shaking out?
Well, Ohio State, they score and they score in bunches. It doesn't matter where they are on the field. They're going to push that football up the field. But the scariest element of their offense is we've called for this. They're running the football, and they're running the football consistently with a two-headed monster. Travion Williams, Travion Henderson, Mayan Williams. But I just look at that receiving room. No Jackson Smith and Jigba, and they're still getting the job done. This is one of the more well-rounded Ohio State teams that I've seen in quite some time. With Maryland, could they make it interesting? I think for Maryland, it's simple. When you have the ball and when you're in the red zone, 20 yards and in, you got to come away with 6. You're not going to beat a team like Ohio State kicking field goals. You got to come away with touchdowns every single time. But I just think Ohio State has too much. But then again, like I said, this is a trap game. They know what's on the calendar next week. This is the game they've had circled since that game in Ann Arbor last year. I know we talked
Mm-hmm.
about that one last year, and I can't wait to discuss this year's game with you. But I like Ohio State. I just think across the board, Maryland doesn't have enough to press those receivers at the line of scrimmage. I don't know if they have enough offense to keep up with Ohio State.
Yeah, no, a couple interesting facts. They haven't played in College Station since 2018. Since that 52-51 overtime win for Ohio State.
Yeah,
A couple things, right? I look at Tua's little brother. I forget his first name. Tyvo. Talking about Lord.
yeah,
Yeah, he's closing in. He is literally closing in on being the greatest quarterback to ever come through that program.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
he's at 70. He's at a little over 7,000 yards, 7,023 yards, passing yards to be exact. He's 278 yards behind Scott Milanovich school record. So he's going to break the school record this year, no matter what, in passing. So big shout out to that kid for doing that. Maryland, usually a basketball school, but Tua's little brother is coming in there and he's literally becoming best quarterback that they've ever had in the program's history. One thing, two things stand out in my opinion. Look at the offense. Ohio State, they have too much for Maryland. Especially after Maryland lost 30-0 to Penn State. I saw how dominant Penn State running attack could be. I think Travion Henderson's going to be big in this game. They're real physical up front. But then I look at Ohio State's front seven, led by their linebacking core and Tommy Eichenberg, who is the semifinalist for the Buckets Award and the Big Narc Award, best defensive player in the nation.
Mhm.
He's going to be big time in this game, especially against the run. Where Maryland has ran the football, pretty well. This year they have a guy. I brought him up earlier, but Henby from Maryland, he's got a little over 800 yards, 7 total touchdowns. He's a strong runner, 6', 200. He's a big kid, Roman Henby, and he's a true freshman. So that's a guy that you got to watch out for. And what's been an Achilles heel of Ohio State in the last couple of years is a good running attack, right? But I expect them to take care of business in this game, much like Michigan is going to take care of business against Illinois. And like you said, Can't wait till next week. The big game, baby. The big game coming up next week. And then moving on to our next feature game. Number 24, NC State going into Louisville. How do you see this one shaking out?
Well, Louisville, man, I really love what they're getting from Malik Cunningham. He's been consistent. He's taking care of the ball. I like this Louisville team. They played tough. And NC State, they had a good thing going until Devin Leary went down. Just seems like after he went down, everything kind of fell through from there. But the one thing I will say about NC State, they have one of my favorite defensive players in the ACC. He goes by the name of Drake Thomas. If this game were in North Carolina, I'd probably be taking the Wolfpack. But I like Louisville. They're at home. They'll feed off that crowd energy. I see them forcing a couple of takeaways and getting the ball back for their offense. And I think Cunningham has a big day as well.
Yeah, no. I think Malik, he is dealing with a shoulder injury, but he is expected to play in this game. He just needs one more touchdown as a career leader in touchdowns accounted for in Louisville history. So I think Lamar Jackson has 119. He's at 118 right now. He's going to break that record, obviously. But yeah, Malik Cunningham, what shoes to fill in for Lamar, other than, how big those shoes are, right? To fill in for Lamar Jackson. You follow it up, right? And they play similar. I just think a little. Lamar Jackson obviously special player, Heisman Trophy winner.
Absolutely.
Generational talent. Malik Cunningham is a couple steps behind him, but I mean, it's a very similar type of player. When I look at this game, I think NC State's looking to bounce back. This is going to be a real close game, in my opinion. Losing to Boston College puts a sour taste in their mouth, right? They could have, broke a record, an ACC record for 17 consecutive, or a program record, I'm sorry, to win 17 consecutive home games in NC State. So, I think they're going to come out, they're going to, be aggressive against Louisville. I'm gonna go with NC State to win this game. I'm actually gonna pick. Sorry, this is actually one of my upset picks. I'm actually gonna go with Louisville to win this game. I'm so sorry. I'm actually gonna pick Louisville to win this game over number 24 NC State. And I think that NC State is gonna come out, but I think losing to Boston College like that, this kind of hurt their morale a little bit. And I do think, Malik Cunningham, has showed the ability to put some teams out. And I think a team like this coming in there with some low confidence, I think Louisville will take advantage of them on the edge. Give me Louisville to win this game at home.
I agree.
Moving forward, we got one of the biggest rivalry games of the season. We got Bedlam, baby. Bedlam, baby. Number 22, Oklahoma State versus Oklahoma. How do you see this one shaking out?
I mean, Oklahoma, you see the difference that having a healthy Dylan Gabriel makes. And at the beginning of the year, we were talking about Oklahoma potentially being a contender, got a defensive-minded head coach in Brett Venables, but losing a couple games that they should have won has them unranked right now. They're playing for pride. This is probably going to be the final time that we see this rivalry. A lot of memorable moments between these two. This is the one thing I don't like about realignment in college sports, because it takes away from some classic rivalries in our game. I'm actually going to take Oklahoma here. I just think I don't trust Spencer Sanders. You just don't know what you get from him. You know what it's like with him? For me, Izzy, it's almost like watching Spencer Petras from Iowa. You didn't know what you were going to get from him on a week-in, week-out basis. I could apply the same thing to Spencer Sanders. I think Marvin Mims has a huge game in this one.
Yeah, no, I'm actually gonna agree with you. I'm actually gonna go with Oklahoma to win this game. It's actually my second upset pick of this week. I do think, for that right, man. Spencer Sanders has been inconsistent towards the end of the year. One thing about Oklahoma, man, they just need to, they have to be able to protect, Dylan Gabriel Oklahoma State is one of the best defensive lines in the Big 12. They can really get after it. Colin Oliver's a guy that is leading them with 5 sacks on the season. Those guys are quick, fast, and so Oklahoma's going to have to do a better job at protecting Dylan Gabriel. But yeah, I do agree. Marvin Mims, I think he is definitely going to take advantage of that secondary, which has not been good at all this year. They have allowed 289.8 yards per game in the air. That is most in the Big 12 this
Yep.
season. So I do like Oklahoma to win this game against Oklahoma State. And yeah, you're right, man. I'm not sure if this is going to be. I don't know if the rivalry is still going to kind of keep going when Oklahoma goes with Texas to the SEC. But I hope it does continue as a rivalry indeed. Even if they don't play in the Big 12 together. So moving
Exactly.
on, to our two last feature games of the week, and I saved the best for last.
You sure did.
Number 7 USC going into the Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California. That's my Keith Jackson voice, baby. Pasadena, California. Playing UCLA. It's a rivalry game here for the Pac-12. How do you see this one shaking out?
All right, so let's get it out the way. Izzy, you know what's coming. You've been around.
Shameless plug, baby.
Shameless plug. I preview this one on the site tomorrow. When I look at USC, their offense, they climb the ladder week in and week out, and they're getting better. The minute Lincoln went to Southern California and took that job, you already knew what was coming. The high-octane offense. You saw what he did in Norman, Baker Mayfield 1 year, following year, Kyler Murray, then Jalen Hurts. And all three of those teams that he coached have one thing in common. They have one of the 2 or 3 best offenses in the country. Now, he has USC in that position, and it starts with one guy. You know who I'm talking about.
Caleb Williams.
Man, he amazes me, and he's really gotten better this year. Finally, his first full year starting. You can tell he's really learning the ins and outs of not just playing quarterback, but being a consistent quarterback at that. This USC offense, a lot like Ohio State's offense. They can strike at any time, get a lot of chunk plays, and they're actually getting a reinforcement back. Mario Williams, who also came from Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's going to be key in this game for the Trojans because all the attention is going to be on who? Jordan Addison. They're going to double him. They're going to probably play him with a single high safety or even they're going to even double him every time. Make sure anybody but him gets the ball. Then I look at the other side for USC. What concerns me is their defense, and they can't stop the run, which isn't a good sign when you're playing a team like UCLA, who likes to run the football. And they're not a physical team. They just play an aggressive brand of football. And it starts with Zach Charbonnet and Dorian Thompson-Robinson. But the guy I'm watching in this game tomorrow, I'm watching Jake Bobo, the 6'5", 215-pound wide receiver, has a clean release off the line. And both these teams are explosive. They do it in different ways. Like, I think UCLA, they can match USC score for score. This is going to be a shootout. I preview it tomorrow. A lot of heavy implications in this game, and the victory belt is on the line as well.
Yeah. One thing about USC, and great analysis, by the way. I know. Look out for that article when Christian drops it at game time to see what his prediction is going to be for this game. If I have to choose, if I have to lean, I'm a lean towards USC for Christian. But you know what? Y'all have to look out for his article and see who he picks as a winner. Anyways, with me, I'll pick a winner tonight. I'm actually gonna go with USC, but it's gonna be tough sledding. Honestly, trying to replace Travis Dye after they lost him. Speedy recovery to you, young man. They lost him to a season-ending knee leg injury last week. He got carted off the field. So trying to replace him is gonna be tough. We saw Austin Jones, the transfer from Stanford. Saw a little bit of time last week after he went down. He had 74 yards against Colorado. In 2 career games against the Bruins, he's rushed for 108 yards and 2 touchdowns. So he has some familiarity there playing already in the conference. You might see some increased time from the true freshman Malik Brown and Darren Barlow as well. So it might be a running back by committee for USC. I just think, when it comes down to it, you have the best quarterback in college football, a generational talent, a guy that is being compared to the likes of Pat Mahomes and Aaron Rodgers. And I'm not playing. That is who I see when I look at Caleb Williams. He is better than C.J. Stroud. He is better than Will Levis. He is better than any quarterback that is going to come out this draft. Unfortunately, the kid is a true sophomore, and he can't come out this year. It sucks that has to happen to him, that he's got to play another year in college football. But, and I think at some point down the line, I think the NFL may change that rule to where instead of 3 years, it could be 2 years. Because we see these kids coming in now more advanced, bigger, stronger. In high school, they're having more exposure to high level clinicians and strength and conditioning coaches, and these kids are playing football year round, even in the cold weather states. They're playing year round. So give me Caleb Williams in that offense, and also when I look at the defense, man, as well for USC, this defense, they've been slightly inconsistent this season, but I still like the fact that they have one of the best defensive linemen, and I can't even pronounce his name. God dang, defensive lineman, man. One of my favorite things. Tupulotu. This kid, he's he's leading the league, and he's leading the college football in sacks this year so far from the interior lineman position. And I told TJ, everybody thinks Will Anderson, Javon Carter from Georgia. Don't forget about this kid. This kid is going to be a hell of a force at the next level. And he's a kid that could play outside. He could play in on the edge as well. He could play inside, and he could play a little bit of outside technique as well in the 4-3. So Tupulotu is a kid that you got to watch out for when it comes to UCLA. I think he'll be getting after DTR as well. And then on the other side, UCLA, they got DTR, another, he's been pretty good for Chip Kelly in his offense the past few years. And they also has another edge rusher, and Latu. If I'm pronouncing his damn name right, he's second in the Pac-12 with 8 sacks. So you got to watch out for this kid. He has at least 2 games with multiple sacks. He's 6th in the conference with 9.5 tackles for loss. So he's a guy you got to watch out for on their side. But I just think with Jordan Addison, if I'm not mistaken, Jordan Addison is leading the Pac-12. He's tied for 2nd in the conference with 7 touchdown receptions, and he missed 2 games. So he'd easily be leading Pac-12 in touchdown receptions. But give me USC on top of UCLA.
And I want to say this too. I don't think people realize just how big of a hit not having Travis Dye is.
Yes.
He's a great pass blocker, and he protects Caleb Williams' blind side. Is he?
Yeah, no, you're exactly correct. So that's why I say, it's going to be a running back. It's not just the rushing yards. It's not just that. It's in the passing game too. Caleb Williams, albeit, Caleb Williams could get outside the pocket and run. He's looking to pass. And when you can't protect his blind slide on pass protection, especially picking up blitzes, it's going to be tough for those 2 freshmen and the kid from Stanford. But I think UCLA will be able to take care of UCLA on the road, and they know this is a game they got to win. They lost one earlier this season. They know they have to win this game to keep the
Yep.
college football playoff hopes alive. They know
Yep.
they have a big game at the end of the season, a clash with Notre Dame. They know
Yep.
they if they win this game, they make it to the Pac-12 championship game, and they'll probably get a rematch in between Utah and Oregon. Or no, they'll probably get a rematch between Utah if Utah beats Oregon, which we'll get to next. But yeah, that is where USC is right now, and they know that they have to win this game. So give me USC to win this game. It's going to be a close one. I think it's going to be a high shootout type of game, though, Christian.
I
One of
agree.
the higher scoring games of this week. And moving forward, moving on to our last feature game of the week. I got number 10 Utah going up against number 12 Oregon on the road. How do you see this one shaking out?
Well, Utah came into the year with some hype. You know, it's number 17 in the country to start out the year, flying across country, losing that tough game against the Florida Gators. And man, I still think they have one of the best 1-2 punches in the country in Cameron Rising and Tavion Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
I look at Oregon. That's a tough loss for them last week. And how healthy is Bo Nix coming into this game? Because I know he got banged up last week. Is he with that shoulder, but still finished the game? But how 100% is he? This Oregon defense, they've improved over the year. Haven't been the greatest, but they've improved. They've gotten better. I think Oregon wins this one in a close game that comes down to another field goal.
Whew, man. This is a late game, 9:30 Central, 10:30 Eastern time. So you better stay up and get your coffee, because this one's gonna be high scoring as well. After you watch USC and UCLA, which I think might be going on at the same time as this game.
Yeah,
What time is that? Yeah, that game starts at 9 o'clock. This game starts at 9:30.
I believe.
You are gonna see some. This is gonna be some of the best late night football that you've seen all year, all season long, in my opinion. Um, whew, I'm gonna go with Oregon to win this game. Um, at home, I just think that they outcoached themselves against Washington. Um, whew, I just think when I look at Utah, one thing that I can see is that both teams they're going to give up some big plays. I think Utah's going to give up some bigger plays in this game against Oregon. Yeah, I do think I am concerned a little bit with Bo Nix. Kind of getting banged up a little bit, but I'm looking at it right now. I think he's a go for this
Okay.
game. But I think for Oregon, I think it comes down to this. You lose to Washington. You were right there to get into the college football playoff. Now it's time to prove yourself again. Hey, we're one of the better teams in the nation. Let's go ahead and beat Utah. At home. And that's just kind of how simple it is, in my opinion, man.
Right.
When I look at Bo Nix, he's been having a hell of a year this season, Heisman Trophy type of season. And he had nothing to hang his head at against Washington. He's been playing really great football. But yeah, it's going to come down to them in this Utah defense. And yeah, I think that Oregon and Utah are going to be evenly matched in this game. And yeah, I do think Tavion Thomas and Cameron Rising big time, but I also think that when you look at Bo Nix and Irving and Franklin, those guys, all big time playing threats. Get up and down the field. Oregon plays fast. So give me Oregon to win this game. But I do like Utah's defense though a little bit. They are stingy in the red zone. They're not really letting teams score a lot of points this year.
Right,
Only giving
right.
up allowing 20 points per game. But through the air, they are a little vulnerable. They're allowing 252 yards, through the air this year. 206 yards through the air, and Oregon's allowing 289. So Oregon's kind of give or take. What you gonna take, what you gonna give. in a way. But yeah, give me Oregon to win this game at home. It's going to be a close one. I'll give it 34-31. Oregon beating Utah. And then my other upset picks. I got Arkansas. Beating Ole Miss. Ole Miss played Alabama tough. I'm not sure if KJ Jefferson is playing in this game. Didn't even look that one up here. Let me see if he is playing in this game. If he is, that makes a little bit of a difference. But if he isn't, I will have to think that Arkansas. They played LSU kind of tough last week. I think Arkansas will we'll pull one off. If I'm a bet man, and I am, I'm gonna have to go with Arkansas at home against Ole Miss, number 14 Ole Miss, and then I got Baylor beating TCU. We talked about it earlier. Baylor offensive team going up against TCU. I do think that TCU could be a little bit vulnerable. A little bit, against pass rush, and also they can, they're going against an offensive-minded head coach who I think could draw up a good game plan against them on the road. So give me Baylor over TCU to knock them off this week. I may be wrong. I may get all of these wrong, but at least I try. At least I try over here.
Yeah. But that I can't really blame you for going Baylor over you because, like I said, Baylor, I think they're gonna bring that defensive intensity just like Texas did, but I think they're gonna elevate it to a higher level because Dave Aranda is one of the best defensive-minded coaches in the country.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I mean, this is a Baylor team that just lost. I mean, I'm kind of swinging for the fences here, but Baylor's at home. Baylor just lost. Got shut out by Kansas State last week. So TCU might do the same thing, but I'm swinging for the fence. If they can keep it close early on, they have a chance. And then Arkansas, I just looked it up. KJ Jefferson is playing in this game against Ole Miss at home, so they are going to get a big boost from their leader at the quarterback position. And we all know, like KJ Jefferson, man, anytime you got that guy on the field, anything can happen, especially at home. Give me Arkansas to beat Ole Miss this week. Moving on to the Heisman Trophy candidates. I still got CJ Stroud at number 1. I mean, him and Hendon Hooker pretty much tied. But if you notice, I've moved Drake May all the way up into number 3.
You did, because he was a dark horse last week, is he?
He was a dark horse last week. He was. But he just showed me something against Wake Forest, man. That kid has an arm. He's a playmaker. He can make plays on a run. He can make plays in the air. He's accurate. He's got a strong arm. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, honestly. And he's a kid that should be considered to win the Heisman. He moves right into the top 3. And then we got Blake Horn from Michigan, who I think is going to have a Heisman moment this week. But yeah, he's another kid. He rushed for 162 yards last week. Actually, Drake May did not break Lamar Jackson's record. I was wrong on that. Shoot, he only had 4 touchdowns last week. This week he could shoot for it to break Lamar Jackson's ACC record. Last week he only had 4 touchdowns, 1 on the ground, 3 in the air. And then when I look at Caleb Williams. Yeah, honestly, when I look at the Heisman, I don't really particularly think this is the best player in the nation. Like Devontae Smith won the Heisman, he went like 17th in the draft or something like that, right? When I look at it,
he went 10th in the draft.
Oh, he went 10th or something like that. Yeah, top 10 or whatever the case is.
You can't take it away from him. He was the best player in the country that year. It wasn't even close.
I know. I get it. But when I talk about
honestly, that's the best I think I've ever seen a wide receiver look at the collegiate level.
Man, he was on fire. He was on fire. But when I talk about
go for it.
No, I was gonna say when I talk about best players, I'm talking about at the next level. I think Caleb Williams is gonna be better than all these players at the next level.
I think,
but he's 5th on my Heisman list because there's CJ Stroud, Hendon Hooker. Had better numbers. You know what I'm saying? And Drake May has better numbers. So, I got to put him ahead of Caleb Williams, unfortunately. But it doesn't mean that I don't think Caleb Williams is the best, quarterback, like in the nation. I think he is, in my opinion, just off talent standpoint. Then my dark horse is Stetson Bennett. I mean, Stetson, man, he's been playing good the last couple of weeks, hasn't he?
Yeah, man. And when you need Stetson Bennett to make a big throw for you, this kid answers and delivers the call and delivers each and every time. I mean, I look at last year, national championship game. This kid can throw it down the field, but I think the scary thing about him is his mobility. He can extend plays, he can make throws on a run, he can move the pocket. And it's, he doesn't get the love that he deserves. So I'm glad you have him as a dark horse.
Yeah, no, he's 14 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, just under 3,000 yards, 28.95. But he's got 144 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. So he's a guy that's got some sneaky ability on the ground as well. But he's definitely a dark horse if Georgia continues to keep winning. Stetson Bennett should be in that Heisman conversation. Now I'm outside looking in. I got Bryce Young from Alabama. And Max Duggan, I can't forget about Max Duggan. He's having one of the best years in Big 12 history, so to speak. 2,500 yards, over 2,500 yards, 25 touchdowns to only 2 interceptions, 241 rushing yards to 4 touchdowns. He's definitely their leader. Max Duggan's a guy that he's got the number 4 team in the nation. On the precipice of making that college football playoff. So.
Yeah. I really like what Max brought to the table for TCU. He's tough, he's aware, he makes all the throws, he makes all the reads. Like, he made a throw last week against Texas where coverage just completely broke on Quentin Johnston. That's the one guy you want to let get behind your coverage or take off the top of your coverage. And I mean, Max threw an absolute dart to him, and yeah, he has them in a really good position right now, Izzy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And then if I gotta, look at some other guys that are, probably on the precipice, of the Heisman, or outside looking in, I don't have Bo Nix in there anymore. He was definitely in my top 5.
He was
last week
on that list.
He was definitely in the top 5 last week. It's not like he had a bad game last week. He just didn't win. He just didn't win against Washington. And if he would have won, I'd probably have him ahead of Drake May. I'd probably have him in the top 5. He, did all he could. 280 passing yards last week, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 59 rushing yards in the touchdown. But when they needed him, to win, and he, like I said, he didn't do anything. His team just lost. That's it. His team just lost, and that's all it is, man. And sometimes when it comes to this award, if you can will your team to a win, you're in a better position. Then another guy I gotta look at, man. One of the top wide receivers in the nation, Hendon Hooker's, wide receiver Jalen Hyatt, over 1,100 receiving yards, 15 touchdowns. This kid is looking like the best wide receiver in the nation. Obviously, we've talked about the kid from TCU, Quentin
Johnson.
Quentin Johnson, who's like DK Metcalf, Terrell Owens type of big play, big body type of wide receiver. And then you got a guy like Jalen Hyatt, who's tall, lanky, but he's fast as hell. And he's definitely a guy with great body control, big hands. I think Jalen Hyatt is going to be special at the next level. And then you got a guy like Jordan Addison, who's missed a couple games this year, but Jordan Addison is just, his route tree is insane. I mean, when you look at a guy that can run any route, Jordan Addison's a guy like that. But I look at Jalen Hyatt, man. He's one of the big play. He's a big play threat wide receiver for me. And I think at the next level, he's going to do a hell, 19.2 yards per catch. That's a hell of a stat right there. Hell of a stat.
Yeah. He, look, you pretty much summed it up for me right there. I really can't add anything else to that.
No, absolutely. But that's been a wrap for this show, man. You guys go ahead and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. Go ahead and check us out on Facebook and Twitch. We're going live, 7 days a week. TJ and David will bring you some more action with the crossover tomorrow. Some Go Talk. Don't miss that. Don't miss college. Don't miss Christian on the Daily Blitz blog when he drops his prediction for UCLA and USC tomorrow, baby. And don't forget to check out the Daily Blitz blog and Monday Evening Quarterback, ladies and gentlemen. Don't forget
Absolutely.
to do that. Yes, and also don't forget to go check, click that button, click that like on the Prime Sports World Facebook page, and the NBA Supreme and NFL Supreme Facebook pages, Facebook groups, as well as that Prime Sports World sports page has gone over 1,000 followers so far. Thank you, appreciate you guys for the support and everything like that. And I want to just end the show as I always do. Drink responsibly, ladies and gentlemen. Watching your alumni, watching your favorite teams play. Go ahead and drink responsibly and make sure you don't drink and drive, ladies and gentlemen. But this is Prosperous World, man. And you know what we do, Christian? We bring the heat.
We bring
the heat. Bring the heat every Friday for College Football Showdown. And y'all better not miss us next Friday as we wrap up week 12 and bring you week 13. And it's rivalry week, baby. And it's going to be big. And I'm going to hope to bring Christian. I'm going to hope to bring TJ up on here if he got some time, because I want TJ up on here to talk about some rivalry games next week. Maybe if Matt James don't join us. But anyways, that's been a wrap, guys. Christian, you have a good night. And for all, if I miss you, have a good morning, good evening, and good whatever the fuck. I'm out of here. I'm losing. I'm off for work, baby. You guys have a good night. Peace out, man.